All right, we'll be right back. Place. Play.
Free Sunday, that's meant for getting game passed down, and it's more than one way. But I could see the hate in their eyes, what they gon' say when you start to wake up and go and collect your prize. Pray patience with the family, hey, now do the work. Accountability hurts. He walking in his purpose, adds value to the work. She want a revolutionary, get on code necessary. Put in practice what we study to defeat the adversary. So what? Speak the truth, we need our own establishments. If you grow your own food, true black empowerment. Let the church say amen, hallelujah, thank the Lord for my brothers that be on the same accord. Let's score. Live by some copa. Life as a soldier, never mess with the rollers. I be smoking no okra. I'm dipping in folders, wake 'em up like some Folgers. Fake woke, we exposure. Knowledge born, yeah, I told you. You and your crew is scary. You move, but moving barely. You shooting, don't be scary. Recruiting, then you bury. Revolutionary. Putting on for my people. Gatekeepers delete you. Meet you, greet you with heaters. Oh, we burst some profits. No work, no progress. Is it worth the profit to divert to false shit? Rapid fire. Cassius liar, cap suppliers. I don't like to rap about them. Watch those Judas with the black messiahs.
All right. Peace, and power. Welcome back to the Mossi Warrior Clan show. I am your host, Kofi Piesie. I am a writer, an author, a publisher, a public speaker, a lecturer, music producer, amongst other things, right? Today we have a special guest on the panel. We'll be introducing him in a brief moment. But before we get started, y'all, I want to say peace to those who are in the chat. Please like and share the show. Please share this to someone that you think that may appreciate this discussion that me and my dear brother are about to have today, y'all. Please like and share the show. So I want to open up with an open statement and a disclaimer. And that is, I want to begin by stating clearly and without hesitation, I am a Pan-Africanist to the core. My comment to Pan-Africanism is not to performance trendies or situationals. It is rooted in history, responsibilities, and obligations to our people. This discussion is not to intend to undermine Pan-Africanism nor to discredit the movement of our ancestors' sacrifice. Organized in many cases, gave their lives to build. On the contrary, this conversation exists because Pan-Africanism matters. When something is vital, you do not protect it with silence. You protect it with honesty. Hold on, let me finish. I ain't got my glasses on. I can barely see. The purpose of this dialogue is to ask hard questions, to engage in intellectual and principle reflections, and speak truthfully about the challenges facing organized Pan-African spaces today. If there are internal contradictions, moral failures, or structural weaknesses contributing to fragmentations or decline, This is this in our responsibility and identify them, not to assign blame, but to seek solutions. Our ancestors fought to improve our condition socially, politically, and economically. To inherit their work without critical examining its current direction would be a form of neglect. Preservation requires elevation, growth requires correction, and liberation requires courage. Courage. The conversation is rooted in respect for African-centered thought, spiritual grounding, and collective accountability. The goal is not destruction, but clarifying. So I wanted to throw that statement / disclaimer out today. We have a special guest on the panel. We have Dr. Dennis Ausar Winkler. I said your last name right, Winkler?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So he is a counselor, educator, psychotherapist, and the founder of Nija Philosophy and Theory, an African-centered framework integrating psychology, spiritual history, and liberation praxis. His teachings, doctorals, and master level in counseling students at Bow State University, Waynesburg University, using a social, cultural, informed, and historical grounded approach. Dr. Winkler is the founder and founder of Temple of New African Thought, Holistic Wellness Center, and currently completing a forthcoming book articulating the I hope I'm saying the word right, this Swahili word right, Nija framework and implication of Pan-Africanism consciousness, healing, and moral clarity. His work explores the intersections of African spirituality, psychological development, and collective responsibilities in the modern African world. Welcome to the show, Dr. Dennis Ausar Winkler. We are glad to have you on the panel today.
I'm honored to be on. Blessings, brother, and listening audience for having me. It is my honor and my privilege. Blessings.
No doubt, no doubt. Again, I greatly appreciate you know what I'm saying, for carving out some time to be on this panel today. So, you know, like I said earlier, you know, this discussion, for those that may not know, we want to talk about, is Pan-Africanism still alive? So we want to have a discussion around that question, and particularly, you know what I'm saying, and talk about some of the things that we may see that may be wrong in the movement today, but what could we do to rectify and solve some of those problems, right? So, but first, Dr. Ausar, man, can you describe your initial introduction to Pan-Africanism, and how has it shaped your perspective on culture, identity, and global African unity?
That's a beautiful question. Yeah, I like that. That's a good question. I would say, first of all, let me just say peace and power again. Thanks again for having me on, my dear brother. So my introduction goes all the way back to as far as I can remember. That meaning that my father, who was clearly Pan-African in African-centered, introduced me to Pan-Africanism as a young child, single digits. I remember the Pan-African Liberation Days, specifically in DC when they were major. Now, I remember the festival. I remember the people talking on the stages. I remember the culture. I remember a lot of things. So I've been in this Pan-African, African-centered movement as a result of being reared in this particular movement and African-centered spaces as well. So I clearly subscribe to both. So I would say, you know, like my father would say that you met Kwame Ture. You were there when Kwame Ture was speaking at Pan-African Liberation Day. So I go all the way back then, although I don't have the memory.
Man, no doubt, man. That's a blessing too, man. A lot of us, you know what I'm saying, got introduced to Pan-Africanism, you know what I'm saying, African-centered thought way later on down the line, such as myself. I was shoot, man, a grown a grown man. I think I might have been in my early 30s, man, when I got introduced to Pan-Africanism and African thought, man. I only been doing this maybe 13, 14 years at the most, man. So yeah, a lot of us, I know a lot of us didn't get introduced to later on. So that's a blessing, man, that you started off early. I wish I could have. I think I would have been further along in life and accomplished a lot of more things in life early on if I had that African centered thought that was passed on to me and introduced to some of the our great scholars and our great organizers and leaders, from the past, man. So
when you say that, is interesting. It can always go several ways, right? Someone could be introduced and turned off. Someone could be introduced and inspired. And I'll say, like, just for me, kind of like to add on to the question, is that I've always been a very quiet person. And in my 20s, I decided to embark upon doing this thing myself. Like, it's different from one introducing it to you and growing up in that lifestyle. But you saying, I said, Baba, that's my father. Baba, where's the book? Where's that book that you gave me some years ago that I read again? That book particularly was Anthony Browder's book, Nile Valley Civilization. So that's like in my mid 20s, right? Because what happened was I was reading this type of, let's say, ideology and different African-centered frameworks, but back then it was a lot about religion, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, all the lectures. A lot of lecturers came through Baltimore and things like that. But when I got older, I went into what they can call the big world, and I don't think I felt quite prepared to talk to people who was, and I don't want to say that there's one Pan-African faith, anything like that, but I wasn't really understanding the mind control that many of the European or Eurocentric ideologies and religions had on us. So I had to go and sharpen my toolbox. So again, in my 20s, I said, let me do this myself. Let me make sure I can understand these concepts, ideas, and ways when I'm espousing on a more deeper level. But yeah, it's been a walk. Yeah,
no doubt. But hold on, I want to go back. You said going back and exploring it yourself. You know what I'm saying? So what in that context, going back and exploring it yourself, what were some of the things that you did when you say, hey, well, let me unwind, let me go into this and explore this for myself before I move any further? So what were some of the things that you had to go and you wanted to explore, investigate, and research?
Well, it wasn't so much that I needed to investigate it. What happened was me growing up in the community and communities that were Pan-African and African-centered, it opened my mind up. So you could imagine that you are seeing things that your friends can't see. You are seeing, like you ain't hooked on Santa Claus. You're not hooked on, especially from an African-centered framework. Pardon me, anybody, you're not hooked on Jesus in the way that other people are hooked on Jesus. You're not hooked on these different things. And so you see the world just a bit different. So what I went back to explore was this. I need to sharpen my ability to articulate these things that I know to be true.
Okay.
And my father was actually surprised again, because I was a quiet person. So, and I'm still a quiet person. People don't believe it, but he thought he couldn't tell whether or not I embraced it or not. And he just went in my early 20s when I went what they can call ham on it. He was like, it just lit a fire back in him to even go stronger, and so he was excited that I embarked on doing this by myself, because everybody doesn't take that path that their parents bring them up in that way. And that's what I was trying to articulate.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I appreciate that answer. Before we move forward, that's kind of like me going ham, me being introduced to African-centered thought or Pan-Africanism or Garveyism, or RBG. This was, like I said, this was like in my my early 30s, right? So I eventually I went ham. I changed what I was investing into, and what I was invested into, I was a clothes fanatic, clothes, jewelry,
Mm-hmm.
cars. You know what I'm saying? That was my thing. That's what I wanted to spend my money on. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I got introduced to it, so now I changed that investment into investing in my mind. So I started out in pseudo beginnings because I was still trying to find. I got introduced to um Sarah Suit Seti, Ajwa Kwesi.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got introduced to oh, what's the brother name I had with the long lock on, used to be on Sonetta TV, Shaka Utmost,
Mm-hmm.
and from Shaka Utmost introduced me to Sonetta's channel, where I began to look at, and that's where I began to develop, like, okay, books. So I started investing in books. So I would buy books every week and go ham reading
Mm-hmm.
these books, because now, like you saying, you are seeing you seeing the world different. Your
Mm-hmm.
whole worldview and
Mm-hmm.
perspective has changed,
Mm-hmm.
and your counterparts, or the people you are surrounding yourself around, and your
Mm-hmm.
family, you know what I'm saying, is looking at you funny, because you no longer believing in a lot of things that we was taught. So I wanted to articulate those things, as you would say. So I went ham into reading books. You know what I'm saying? Every day I would read books, and I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to thrive myself. I want to read, setting goals. This is the amount of books that I want to be able to read, you know what I'm saying, in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to articulate these things. So if I'm having a conversation, I can articulate it better. When people say, why did you take this drastic? They would use this drastic change. You made a drastic change, like this was
Mm-hmm.
something wrong with me for making these changes
Mm-hmm.
and looking at the world differently, being cautious on, or being aware of things that are surrounding me that I wasn't aware of, that was, in plain sight. You know what I'm saying? So I began to invest in my mind as well, where I was able to articulate myself better, which became a thing where I know I wanted to not only just articulate, but I wanted to go out and share this information. And hence my slogan I coined back in 2008: as I learn, we all learn, which is a spinoff of Each One Teach One. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, from the past, our ancestors with that Each One Teach One, or me following after Atlas Cromwell in the American Negro Academy, their goals was to they feel like through education was that could liberate us, on so many different levels. So I took that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mindset and that framework and applied it to mine, and started, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start, conveying information. I'm gonna start investing more into my mind, and then conveying this information out, because this information empower me. So if it
Mm-hmm.
empowers me, I know that it can empower you, because we're being taught differently about
Mm-hmm.
who we are, where we
Mm-hmm.
come from, uh, our connection to Africa, our contributions that Africa made, and so forth. So again, man, I applaud you, man, for taking the time out, you know what I'm saying, and picking those books up and reading them, you know what I'm saying, and then able to digest the information and then convey it back out to the people, and to ignite and fire back into your father. So I salute you on that.
If I could say one more thing, which is pretty
Yeah, bro.
interesting, is that the catalyst, one of the catalysts, more was that there was a African sister who I had been doing business with. I've been a business person for a long time. So one of the things I was doing was helping her, and I was taking her out of state to this particular conference. And on our way down to Richmond, Virginia, she started asking me, was I saved? Did I believe in Christ? And all these type of things.
Mhm.
And and this was the moment. This was the moment. And I told, do I believe Christ died for my sins and rose again?
Mhm.
And I said, well, I can't remember what I said to her. I probably said, I don't know. I probably said, no, I don't know what I said. But
Mhm.
nonetheless, she started pleading with me. And I'm in my 20s, like, what are you talking about? She told me I'm going to hell. I said, yeah, and she started crying, like pleading with me. She's like begging me, Dennis, if you don't confess in Christ, you will go to hell. And I was saying, like, and I'm sitting there and I'm reasoning with her because I've always been this logical type person. I'm like, so you're telling me that if I do all the good and I'm helping you and I help others, that if I don't confess in what you call Christ, then I'm going to go to hell. I said, so, but I can do everything good. I can work with my community, do all these things and go to hell. And you can cause hell and just confess in Christ and go to heaven. And I did not. This is what I'm saying. I did not understand the hold that these Eurocentric ideologies had on us. And that was the moment. So I said, I gotta weapon up for that.
No doubt. Peace to everybody in the chat, man. Peace to everybody in the chat. Also, as we get deeper into the discussion, we just warming up first, origin and formation. I call this origin and formation. So we gonna get deep into the conversation, but please again like and share the show. And throughout the show, if y'all have any questions about anything that we are talking about, or just have a question in particular, please put it in the chat, and I'll throw it up. And when we get a chance to look at it, we'll try to answer the question for you. But my dear brother, man, from a scholarly activist perspective, is Pan-Africanism in decline, or is it being misunderstood and misapplied in this current time?
I said, let me think about this a bit. I thought about it just a bit today. I said, I don't know what question he's going to ask me, but I see this major question on the flyer. And I said, can I challenge myself today to just kind of just think about something to say about this question? So I wrote it down. And, so this is what I came up with as I was actually driving. I said, I cannot say that Pan-Africanism is any less necessary today than it was yesterday, because nothing has happened to make it less necessary. We often mistake social media visibility or media visibility for vitality. But obscurity on Western platforms is not evidence that an idea is dead. Sometimes it's evidence that the idea is disruptive. Systems do not suppress what is irrelevant. They suppress what threatens their narrative control. A recent example is the social media platform African Stream, a Kenya-based Pan-Africanist media outlet whose accounts were removed from major platforms after public accusations from the U.S. officials, leading to a wave of bans and ultimately an announcement that it would cease operations. That was not a decline in interest. That was an interruption in infrastructure. So when we ask whether Pan-Africanism is still alive, we have to be careful not to confuse platform visibility with philosophical vitality, because what threatens empire will rarely be given the metrics of success that empire reserves for itself. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if we are utilizing the oppressors or the system's metrics for success, or what is in decline and what is not, basically it would look like it's dead. If we're looking at and we're thinking that Pan-Africanism is going to be on the major platforms, on the news, as it was once at one time, and they learned some things from that, if we don't understand that they will derail, and we won't find ourselves in the algorithm as much as other foolery, then we're confused, because we utilize European metrics to substantiate or evaluate or measure what is dead or what is alive. So I would say is not dead. And in fact, that same platform that I was talking about, that one platform who had millions of followers, was derailed, I would say intentionally, purposely, and the following that it garnered will be evidence, one example of evidence that is not dead.
Man. That's a powerful answer, man. That's definitely a powerful answer. You know, you put something on my mind right there when you said us measuring it by European metrics and standards. You know what I'm saying, to validate whether it's dead or it's alive. Man, that's it's a powerful statement within itself. You just put something definitely on my mind. So now I will have to go back and reiterate some of the things that I've looked at, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to Pan-Africanism, on how I measure it in a sense. But in another sense, I also measure it, which we'll get into later on. I measure it in a sense of, because I also want to talk about African spirituality, or what some of us like to refer to as Kimoyo. And you know, because I think that's the not being practiced, that those things not being practiced in a sense is what's causing some of the dissension, some of the divides, and some of the abandonment. But we'll get into that a little bit in more into discussion. But you know, why do you think, you know, so many individuals, you know what I'm saying? Because, and you may not see this, I may be the only one seeing this. So I'm wording this question, and this question may not even pertains to you, but I wrote this question down because I see it so much, and I see it so much because I'm one of those individuals who been a practitioner of Pan-Africanism, who've been a practitioner of different African spirituality, which I don't like to use the word African spirituality, but we using it in the sense of that's what everybody know. And the reason why I don't like to use the word African spirituality is because we utilize that word to rebel back in the day against religion. So religion was a word that triggered us back in the day. So we began to use the word African spirituality. You know what I'm saying? But when you're talking about African spirituality, I don't know if you're talking about a Sheshe. I don't know if you're talking about Gulu Wankulu. I don't know if you're talking about Kumi, Bosom, Fataru. I don't know none of these, you know, so it's like we're bunching. That's one of the reasons why I don't like to use, because we're bunching all of those different systems into one, even though they mirror each other, but they are different. But I was one of the ones who left the movement. People who know I've been on these platforms for years. I'm a member of the Mossi Warrior Clan. I'm a member of my own group, Kofi Piesie Research Team. I'm a member of Team RBG. But going back to Mossi Warrior Clan and Kofi Piesie, I put blood, sweat, and tears. I've been on the scene for years, and I disappeared after 10 years. I got frustrated and left in 2023 and went off to do some other different things because I was frustrated with a lot of things that were going on, which we'll kind of talk about some of the frustrations. So I was one of the individuals in particular why I'm framing this question like this, and you may not seen this, but I have, where people start to go off and leave Pan-Africanism and just live their life or dabble into something else totally different or opposite, you know. So why do you think so many individuals are leaving Pan-African spaces and other ideology framework? And what does that say about leadership and discipline within the movement? And the reason, and again, I'm framing that question that way, and you may not see it, I have a issue when it comes to leadership, discipline within the leadership, and outdated methods. Like, I grew up, well, I didn't grow up, but I began to have a passion for Pan-Africanism when I encountered Dr. Bean's book, when I counted John Henry Clark book, when I counted Asa Hilliard book, Sheikh Ante Diop, and the list can go on, right? And when I'm looking at those books, because I'm so much of a researcher, and I've published multiple books, you know what I'm saying, on historical nonfiction. And those books are written 1960, 1980, 1987, you know. So those books are, you know, even though they inspired us and they motivated us and they propelled us and pushed us, a lot of those ideals are outdated when it comes to the 21st century. So a lot of our leaderships are mimicking and mirroring some of those outdated methods and applying them to the 21st century. And we can't get any further than what our ancestors had already started building, because we suppose they want us to stand on the shoulders of them. They built the foundation and they wanted us to continue to build it up. But for me, it seemed like we still at the foundation. We still added on to the we're not adding on to the foundation. The only thing we got is that concrete slab. The framework has not went up because they laid the concrete slab for us to start building up, standing on their shoulders and building it up. But we're still using or utilizing or mirroring some of those outdated methods that's, in my honest opinion, will not work in the 21st century. So that's why we are still stagnant or in stagnation and not as farther ahead as we should be when we're looking at some of those great scholars that, those great scholars, those great writers in the 20th century.
That was a hell of a question. Excuse my language. And I get what you're saying. These are some of your ideas, right? I think I can agree with the sentiment to some degree, but I also think that many times it becomes because we are at war. And when we are at war, there comes something of a fatigue. Also, so I think when we look at people who kind of go back into or integrate back into the system per se, we do it because it's easier. It's quite easier to deal with something that's already in place than to build a thing. Now, and so, I mean, I see it all the time. A lot of us, but it's scary. You don't get the benefit of the system. You might not get the job. You might not get the tenure. You might not get the grant. So there is a war on various levels.
Yes, it is.
It's not. It's so the stress in the decisions I have to make now. Do I decide to do what I feel might get me a nice house and a car, or I decide to fight this fight, which is ideological? Now, I can have this nice car. It pleases me now. Or do I build for my grandchildren? Do I build for my progeny? I mean, maybe we can do a little bit of both. But the reality is a lot of us get tired, and a lot of us are still utilizing Eurocentric frameworks to see what's going on, to judge what's going on, to measure what's going on. And actually, it clouds our lenses because the work is still going on. It's never stopped, and it's always been built upon. You have those of the Dr. Benz, the Dr. Clarks. Then you have the Marimba and the Wade Nobles. Then you have the I'm going down the lineage here, right? You have the people like my father and all of them that came under them, and you have different institutions that were created and are still created. You also now more recently you have the Baba Imhoteps, the Dr. Mayas, myself, you, and all the other people are doing these things. So what I'm saying is, it never stopped. Then you have the academics to do it. It's just not getting the same level of airplay. It's not getting the same level of algorithm. And we again, we begin to believe what is on social media is what is real, and the work on the ground is not what's real. We have the leaders of a beautiful struggle who do work every day. We have my dear brother Elijah and Tendea family. I'm talking about in Baltimore here. You know, you have again, you still have landmark places like Everyone's Place and African World Books. You have the dear brother Baba Elder in Chicago. You have so many things that are still going on, but you also have people that aren't getting the light. They're not being, they're not on channel 13. They're not doing, you know, so what I'm saying is it's still going on, but there's a war going on. And part of the war is what is pushed and what is highlighted. It was a few things I wanted to answer, but the major thing is you're always going to have people who get worn out. You're going to have people who have to choose between their lower, if you want to say on a spiritual thing, you have to, people who are not disciplined enough, they a lot of times they will choose that lower self. They will choose that which is easier. They will choose lots of things, but there's a lot of other people who are in it and still going. And from a leadership, you said something about leadership top down. Did you say something about that? Oh, outdated methods.
Yes,
I think I wouldn't say certain things aren't outdated because they obviously are, but I would argue that some of the things that people say are outdated is because they don't utilize an African-centered or a Pan-Africanist framework in measuring these things. There's lots of things that people would say are outdated. They will say that some of the ideology is outdated because in somehow we believe we got into this place where white people like they're really going to do something for us. You know, they're like, this is in the 60s, you know, but even King, you know, had to realize this. Look, all we had to do is study history and realize it's the same things we're doing today. We're making the same mistakes because we're not learning from those things many times. Like we're not reading enough. I'm saying those things weren't outdated. Like King realized that these white liberals aren't going to do anything for us, but we repeat the same mistakes. We get into these white men and white women problems, and we continue to do it. Then we side with the white woman because she's liberal, and we move away from this white man because we think he's conservative, but none of them mean us well. But we continue to make the same mistakes. So that's why I would say it's not outdated. Now you had to give me something specific that you're saying is outdated, so that I can have the conversation about whether or not something is outdated.
Well, one thing in particular what I'm saying is outdated is, okay, institutions. Like there's not enough institutions. Before I even go into that, you mentioned like education, right? So another thing that I washed my hands with, and I left for 3 years. 2023, I left and started doing other different things. Was the education piece. I noticed that a lot of people that's on the threads that is engaging and looking at a lot of these bills, a lot of these lectures that we doing, a lot of discussions that we have done in the past, those individuals are not reading. So that was another frustrating thing for me, was the educational piece. You have people that you name, people that I name, people are in our surrounding circles. Like, you know, like I'm saying, I'm a part of the Mossi Warrior Clan, man. There's hundreds of videos on this channel alone of educating people about African culture, tradition, discussions, discussions and things that's going on globally around the world with our people, discussions about solutions, you know, books in particular, you know what I'm saying, that we can read to try to change some of our circumstances, change some of our perspectives and outlooks. But a lot of us is not reading. And the debating thing, like the debating thing has been going on. People think that debating thing started with Sarnetta TV. Debating thing's been going on for beforehand. You know what I'm saying? A lot of our scholars was debating and doing certain things, even though I think the way that they debated and how they debated today are totally two different things. But there is nothing in particular coming out of the debating, you know, besides one stroking one's ego. Now, I'm going to little boy and little son you know what I'm saying? Instead of, okay, debating, we have two totally different agreements, or we almost in the line. What can we do to create some solutions where we both can work together despite some of the differences that we have? I mean, this has been going on for years. So that's one in particular, the debates is they, you know, I feel like they're useless today. They're not serving a purpose, because when one leaves, one goes back into the same things. There's no solutions being involved in a thing. So that's just one thing. Can I
jump in on that though?
Go ahead, sir.
Just because I know there's a lot of things. So I think that when we sign that as an example, sign that a TV, right? I think that when we have a true or clear Pan-African lens or African-centered lens, we will realize that sign at a TV is algorithmic propaganda. It's not Pan-Africanist. It's not African-centered. It's part of the problem. It gets, I mean, it doesn't get so many views, but it gets more views than content that would be more beneficial. It'll get more content than what we're talking about right now. It'll get more views than what we're talking about right now, because it finds its way in the algorithm because it's mess. So I would say that, again, we have to look at that as psyops. I'm not saying that I'm not even calling them as agents of anything. I'm saying what the algorithm will push and promote many times is foolishness, and those things that will cause division and divisiveness in our communities. So, yeah, but there are people out here that are speaking and doing really good work in different Pan-African spaces, online and offline, that doesn't get that same level of shine. Mm-hmm. But you can find it if you look for it. Now that's that's the war. That's what I'm saying. The war, the algorithm is a part of the tool of the warfare. The internet is designed in a way to perpetuate the status quo. It is designed in a way to keep those who are in power in power. It's not a tool. It's not meant for us. We utilize it, but again, it is here to maintain the status quo. So again, if we're measuring success off of what we find online, again, that's the wrong metric.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. So how do we change that? How do we change? Like, a lot of things we can point out that we disagree with when we're talking about metrics, but like even with the internet, like I'm like you said earlier, you are a quiet person. Like I'm an introvert too. People wouldn't believe that, but I utilize the internet because I'm an entrepreneur. So I have a few businesses, so I have to be visual online. But I also have a message because 2013, I made a commitment to myself that I will continue to invest in my mind and continue to share what I've learned. Because when I learn about who I am, when I learn about my ancestors, when I learn about the contributions that our ancestors made, when I learn about the mistakes that our ancestors made, when I learn about why we are in certain positions that we are in, I made it a duty for me to teach, you know what I'm saying? So I created a platform. And then I got invited to join the Mossi Warrior Clan back in 2018. And I made it a duty to get on here and every week and put something out to help the people change their mindsets, their worldview, and their perspective, so we can move forward as a people. And damn, I was saying that to say something. But I'm just saying, so I utilize the internet. So how do we figure out a way to utilize the internet? Because some of the people that you're talking about on the ground, we may not particularly know who these individuals are. And going back, and I'm not, this is not to, and I'm not, and there was another reason why I left too, because I'm not here to battle anybody. And when I'm saying that, when we talking about Sonetta TV, you know, and a lot of people, when you mention the name, sometimes people think that you hating on other individuals. We're not hating on any individual. We're just pointing out some of the things. So now what can we do? Because even when you mention Sonetta, there's other platforms that are in line with Pan-Africanism or Garveyism or RBG or Black nationalism, race first, or etc., that is mimicking the Sonetta TV, and that has been mirroring the Sonetta TV. That has become the measuring rod to success when it comes to the platform. So now other people are mimicking those same methods, you know, on that platform. They are mirroring the same thing, so it's being passed down. So people, when people do come on here, they believe that we have to be in opposition with people. We have to talk down on people. You know what I'm saying? We have to intellectual masturbate. We have to daughter and son other individuals. So what can we do to use this tool called the internet in a way to highlight and combat those other things? Because this is a tool, and I believe this is a tool that we need, because this tool also is it influence people. So how do we balance that out or oversaturate what we already seeing?
I think we have to look at it just like all the other tools that this society has given us. We say money's a tool, right? We say that weaponry is a tool. We say that all these things are tools. I think it's okay to understand that, but I think it's also essential to understand that they have more weapons. They have, you know, the weapons are in service for them, even if they gave you a few. That the system and its economic structure is set up in a way that you can't really catch up. And I'm not saying what I'm getting somewhere. I'm not saying all is hopeless, because I don't believe that. The system, and if we believe that we can do it through the systems that they set up, we have fooled ourselves. There is, if we again, let me say that again. If we believe, and we're measuring ourselves against the creators of these different systems, these different platforms, if we believe that somehow we are going to be able to, with the messaging, with Pan-African messaging, I'm saying authentic Pan-African messaging, because I saw somebody put Umar Johnson there. He'll get in there, because that's nothing about that is really Pan-Africanist. Pardon me, I'm not talking about people. I'm just saying, if you listen to what he's talking about, for the most part, it is not really about movement building. It's not about us collectively moving forward. It's about a few things, and you know, and that's about it. But why he becomes popular is because, not because of the serious messaging, it's because of punchlines and phrases, and also divisiveness. So again, I mean, I'm not sure about these channels that you are saying that are mimicking, and I would say if the channels are mimicking, they are also confused. And I'm saying with all due respect that they're not clear. And I think that sometimes I think, okay, let me just go into my way of seeing this. A lot of the issues we have here is because we're unhealed. And because we're unhealed, because of the trauma that we have experienced through this Ma'afa, the Ma'afa meaning that, you know, from there to now, we're not able to see things clear. And because we're not able to see things clear, when people are operating from a traumatized perspective, they are really unclear. They don't trust themselves. They don't trust others. They don't know what to do. And then they don't know how to be in relationship. And the problem with being in relationship, it does put a struggle on our institutions, on our organizations, on many things. So what I would argue and posit is that we have to find a way to heal. I'm not, even all these books, like everybody don't have to be a scholar. You know, I think that's part of the misconception, because we say things like, oh, read a book, like, or like, and it's an insult. But the reality is, not everybody's going to be the scholar. Not everyone's going to be the leader. Not everyone's going to be the whatever. But if you say you're a soldier, be a soldier. Learn to be a soldier. But an unhealed soldier will believe that he would disagree with somebody who that has a clearer perspective and is better equipped to be a leader. Because lots of times we don't even like to be in organization or with anybody or under, quote unquote, any leadership. So we begin to get frustrated, and we get frustrated because we don't realize it's a real war. That's the major thing I want to say. When we don't realize it's a real war, we expect to be further along in an unrealistic way.
Mm-hmm. I get you. I definitely agree with you with everything that you said. So, and I'm gonna get in. I want to get in that in a minute. And we may talk about that now. Yeah. Okay. And I think we often emphasize African spirituality or Kimoyo as moral anchors. Would you say the current condition of Black leadership or organizing reflects a state of moral bankruptcy due to the abandonment of African spiritual principles? Because that, I think that is, huh?
Was that the question?
Yeah.
Could you say it again?
I often emphasize African spirituality or Kimoyo as a moral anchor. Would you say the current condition of Black leadership or organizing reflects a state of moral bankruptcy due to the abandonment of African spirituality principles? And I'm phrasing that is because you mentioned a while ago about healing and us treating each other. And within the context of some of those African traditions or culture or African traditional religion or African spirituality, Kimoyo, whatever we're calling that, they have morals and principles inside of that, you know what I'm saying, on how to raise a man or a woman to the highest human as possible, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's why I'm phrasing that question. Do I need to reiterate the question one more time?
No. I appreciate it. I think in your restating it, there's a key term in there that I think I would rather use. I would, instead of just saying spiritual, I would say cultural. A major part of the issue, I would say, would be cultural, because culture includes, from an African-centered standpoint, and let me be clear what I mean by African-centered standpoint. I am not talking about just merely traditional African traditions. I am talking about African traditions that were created on the continent, and even more so, the African traditions that were created on this continent. Because if we are African people, I think that, again, one of the things we struggle with is culture. I want to answer the question. I'm gonna go back. It's culture, but also I want to say is this, and I want to come back to culture, but I want to say something. We have not learned to acknowledge, and part of it is due to a need to become culturally oriented, those who are here with us right now. We struggle, like we'll say these people don't exist, but then you'll be talking to one. So it becomes an insult even. It's like we'll say, like somebody will come to me and be like, well, we don't have any more people doing business and we don't have leaders. And I'm sitting there listening like, hold up, bro. Hold up. What are you saying? I mean, I'm not, what I'm saying is every Black man, woman, whoever, who finds themselves in this struggle and doing the work should be insulted when someone said there's no leaders in our community. If you should be insulted, even if it comes out of your mouth, because you should know, look, especially if we say we're leaders, especially if we workers or whatever, when we say these things don't exist anymore, I'm asking you, like, where we get that from? The reality is it's an insult to me when someone tells me we don't have leaders and I know I'm one. When we say we don't have people writing books and all this, and I know I am one. When I know Baba Imhotep is one. When I know that so many other people are one. When I know my brothers from Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle are one. When I know that the brothers and sisters that you roll with, they're doing work. It's the fact that we have not learned, because the lack of culture. We got to understand that we have to appreciate those right here before us. And before I used to be quiet about that, but I'm saying it very clear. I know I'm a leader, and I know the sacrifice that I put in, and I know it's worthy just as much as any historical character. And we should be able to say that, because the last genius was not Imhotep. There's no reason to talk about Imhotep as a genius if you can't acknowledge your geniuses right here today.
I like that, man. I like that. And I like that, man. And I hope people kind of paid attention to like what you said. Like, you know, we can regurgitate some of our other scholars and appreciate some of our other scholars. You know what I'm saying? But as we do that, we have some of the same people who are standing on the shoulders of those same people that we regurgitate that are actually, you know, are doing some of the same work, writing books, you know what I'm saying, creating programs, creating institutions, creating opportunities, boots on the ground through different struggles, you know what I'm saying? And I think we need to do more of that. And I think and I'm glad you said that, because that's a few years ago, I was saying the same thing when I was talking to Sean them, and I was telling them I was going to bag away. And I was just disgusted, because we put in a lot of work, but it just seemed like the work wasn't being valued. And no one, you know, at the time, and I was the same way, saying, you know, every place I go and do a public speaking, or even on YouTube every week, I was on YouTube every week, whether it was on the Mossi Warrior Clan channel or on my own channel, Kofi Piesie TV. I was doing something, and I always like to give a disclaimer. And I always would say in my disclaimer, I am not a leader, I'm not a teacher, right? But, you know, I've come to realize I am a teacher. I am a leader. I have been in multiple leader roles. I am in a lot of leader roles, you know, in particular, you know, right now, you know, as an entrepreneur, you know, I'm in a leadership role. I have 2 writing groups. I have the Degree Out Writing Collective, and I have my SLA magazine. I have a magazine that I do, and I have I have writers for the SLA magazine, you know what I'm saying, that I have to be over, you know, my own publishing company, you know what I'm saying. I write my own books, but I also publish other people's books, you know, as well. So I've taken on that role, but the appreciation, I think that was another thing. That was just another thing of appreciation. We have people that are here right now that we don't even appreciate, and then we'll, you know, and we can regurgitate a lot of our other ancestors, but, you know, and, you know, extend honor and praises to them, but won't stand honor and praises or support the people who are standing on those people's shoulders, who are actually putting in the work. So you wouldn't have to do, you know, so you wouldn't have to do all the work. We do a majority of the work by purchasing the books, by taking time to read the books. We, you know, by going and traveling certain places to getting, you know, first and secondary, you know what I'm saying, evidence, et cetera, whatever, you know, through research or through field work or whatever we're doing. We got people that's doing the work, but you're not acknowledging and supporting them. And that was another thing for me that said, well, I'm done. These people don't appreciate me. I've been doing this for 10 years. So I'm glad that you brought that out. You know what I'm saying? That we got to start acknowledging some of the people that's in our very face every day, and stop saying some of the nonsensical things that we don't have any great leaders anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Can I jump in there?
Oh, go ahead. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, but it has to start with you. It has to start with us, because somewhere, and I saw Bob Imhotep, peace, Bob, how you doing? And bringing it back to that trauma, we are afraid many times to even mention that we are leaders because of the sickness that's going on. And you know you're a goddamn leader, but you can't even say it because people gonna start hating on you. But that's part of the trauma. They know, they're uncomfortable, but you know, we allow them to say people that don't deserve the title to wear it. But if you are so quiet about your ability, as Bob Imhotep told me one time, he said to me, I was on his show or his conversation, I forgot how he called it. He said, you know, we were chatting it up. Let me see that. And he said, you know what? He said, you you're modest. He was like, yeah. He's like, what they call that, brother, is that they call that modesty. And what was going on? What I was saying is that I stay kind of low key, right? Although I don't want people to be triggered by me. So sometimes I would dim that light. But he said, that's what you're modest. Then he followed by saying, we don't need that. And that could be pretty shocking to someone's system. But if you really understand what he's truly saying is that we are at war. We have to really, if you are one who is taking this to another level, if you are one and you know you won and you're authentic, genuine, and you have your ego balanced and under control, you have to stand up. You have to talk. And that is getting back to what you said earlier. We have to talk. People are going to not like it all the time, but those people have to heal. But when you are genuine, we have to stand up and shine our light. And we do have to speak, as you were saying. What do? We have to speak out. We do have to balance it a bit. We do have to shine our light and say we're over here. Because if we don't shine our light, they have no option, no other alternative but to go to these other platforms that are in the algorithm or what have you. Of course, we are fighting an algorithm. I want us to understand that. We are fighting an algorithm that does not reward the type of talk that we're talking. And if you believe that is something wrong with you, then we're already confused. The algorithm doesn't want to hear real. The algorithm does not want to hear anything that will disrupt it. We know these things. We read these books. But see, what happens is we experience what we call burnout. So we have to take care of ourselves. We have to talk to other people in the position. Because the reality is when we're dealing with sick people, as many of our elders taught us, and we know that we've been through the myopathy and other illness and post-traumatic slave syndrome and post this and post that, what make you believe that somehow that this wouldn't happen? We have to understand the fight that we're against. We are up against people who have been traumatized like none other. So culture, getting back to it, culture is essential. Culture has been supported, or it's supported that culture can heal us. It's supported that we need culture so we can get back some structure and order in our lives, in our communities, in our families. Without culture, we continue more the same. Without culture, we do whatever the status quo puts out there. Without culture, we just imitate the white man and his conservative views, or the white woman and her liberal just do anything.
I agree. Q Butter, you said leading what though? Who are that question is directed to, Q Butter? Or what are you trying to say? I see that question in there. But anybody else got any questions in here too? Feel free to put them in there. But yeah, well, till Q, I guess so.
I hope Q Butter know he's a leader of his school. I mean, I've seen his comments in there, but I hope he understand that he's in a leadership capacity at, what's the name of his school again? I hope he understands that he is a leader. So the question, I mean, I saw some of the things he put, but nonetheless, I hope he understands that he's a leader at his school.
Yeah. I don't know what the question was directed toward, or how it was framed, or whatever. That's why I threw it back in there. Or was he asking us what we are leaders of? So maybe he'll come back and respond in there. But man, so we often there's a growing debate, man, asking whether one can be genuinely a Pan-Africanist while identifying with or operating with a framework like foundational Black America. In your view, are these positions compatible or contradictory?
If it was truly what they said it was, it could be compatible. But because it's more than what they say it is, many of them, is not compatible.
Mm-hmm.
It's compatible if they say, oh, it's just identifier that helps us delineate ourselves from other African people, to say in a more specific sense, to say these people are descendants of African enslaved Africans that had their experience here in the United States. If it was just that, which we don't even need that because African American already does that in a major way. Now, but let's say you want even more specificity. If that is all it was, you could do that. But foundational Black American at its core, if you go to his website, you would see that it has an ideology. And that's what I've been arguing for a while. And people sometimes it doesn't have enough ideology because they think I'm giving them credit. No, it has an ideology, and it's a very white supremacist ideology. So if it's a very white supremacist, Black MAGA, ultra conservative ideology, it is not compatible with what we call Pan-Africanist thought. In fact, it tells you right now. It tells you on the website, although they say, oh, that's Tariq's website. No, he's the one who coined the term.
Yeah.
Because he coined the term, so it has on his website that if you are even for example, I'm of African-American descent, if you want to call it that, and my wife is of Jamaican descent, if you want to call it that, right? We have children. They would say that one of my children could not be in leadership position because they're mixed. You cannot have a mixed African-American, a child with a parent that's from another country in leadership positions. Unless they have proven that they have worked for our people. Now, if it's not, I don't know how you do that if it's only what they call a lineage or a identifier for Black people who ancestry came through the United States American chattel slavery. Now, if it's not ideology, it's not an organization, there's no, who's the judge for that? Who's the jury for that? Who decides that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's anti-Pan-Africanist. Even if they say it's not anti-Pan-African, anti-African, they say that all the time. If anyone was to do any type of level of research, they will realize that it is very antagonistic towards African people, but in Caribbean people, and more specifically, which they cannot deny, is Pan-Africanism. They can do the shuck and jive when it comes to African people, Caribbean people, not all of them, but they never, for the most part, unless they're people who kind of over here who are Pan-Africanists, who are a little confused about what's going on, and they say, well, I understand that argument, but I'm a Pan-Africanist in that. I get that, but they're confused about what's really going on.
They definitely is. That was y'all video, you, Sean, Ausar, Hotel, and Ben did, and me looking in the comments, it was a lot of the FBA and they was making a lot of statements about Pan-Africanism, and I was asking them to explain or elaborate or go in depth about some of the things that they were saying. That what sprung my return actually back to the channel also was that conversation that y'all had about the FBA. So I come back and I did what is Pan-Africanism, because a lot of things that I seen in the comment was that Pan-Africanism is not in Africa, right? So I wanted to come back and dive deep into some of that thing, and I wanted them to explain some of that. So my answer is yes. So I did that presentation and started out with Ethiopianism, or the Ethiopian movement, and how that movement was here in South Africa, and how it started here in the United States and then ended up in South Africa, and then South Africans, merging with some of our brothers and sisters here on the continent. Ethiopianism movement is a movement that sparked Pan-Africanism. The origin or the tree for Pan-Africanism come from that, and Marcus Garvey, Marcus Delaney, Alex Cromwell, Edward Blind, and other individuals are the ones who sparked or helped spark the interest of Pan-Africanism. So I wanted to kind of come back, and which is this conversation that we having is also helping to with my book, Before Pan-Africanism Was a Name, a brief intellectual and historical clarification. So, but they just made a lot of different claims. So I wanted to come and try to clear up some of the claims that some of the FBA are making, and even those who are, because they told me, I didn't notice that we have some brothers and sisters who say they are Pan-Africanists, Pan-African, are participating in the FBA. So I was like, that's interesting, just listening to some of the rhetoric that some of these individuals are saying that I've been listening to, and even looking at some of the comments that they were making, and even making, the word tather. They was calling a lot of us tathers inside of the comments, and even certain Pan-African, when we talk about the love for Africa, globally, all of us working together, to solve some of the problems, that we have socially, politically, and economically worldwide. They have an issue with that. So I just thought that was just interesting for people who said that they was Pan-Africanists, but they also say that they are foundational Black America. I found that contradictory. So I just thought that, I wanted to ask you that question, because you have more expertise in this, because you've been talking about it a little bit longer than me. So maybe there ain't I didn't know. I said, from what I've seen and what I've been listening to, there is a contradiction between the two. So how can you be Pan-Africanist and foundational Black America when there's totally two different ideology, and a lot of it mimics, the rhetoric mimics mega talk, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate your answer, man. And I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Man, so my final question, man. Well, hold on. We got, before I get into my, I did, let me do this. So I'm gonna get to my sister question in a minute. Q Butter did say, he did say something. I think shoot, so many. Oh, he was saying there was no shots. There was no shots at y'all, and not to seem combative. He's dead right on Pan-Africanism never being elevated into mainstream medias. However, we also need to take accountability for how we have dropped the ball. And I definitely agree with you, Q. But this was the whole thing about this, the conversation as well, because no organization is perfect, and no way, and that was the purpose too of the discussion, was to talk to my brother, who I wanted to interview because I feel like he was qualified in a lot of a lot of what I wanted to talk about today, but also to take accountability on some of the things I've seen in the past, because I've been a part of a lot of different organizations, a lot of different movements, but I know that they are all not perfect. But you're right. At some point, we have to take accountability, but this also is to take accountability and then figure out a solution on how we can fix these problems. And that's one of my major concerns, is how can we fix some of the problems, within our movement, particularly the Pan-African movement. How can we fix some of those problems? What are some of the solutions?
The problem I have with that, though, is that, again, I need specificity if we say we dropped the ball, right? And I'm not saying we can't improve a thing. But again, if we're talking about the media apparatus, what aspects are we judging? Because to me, we can just say we dropped the ball. But where are you saying we dropped the ball? How are we measuring the ball being dropped? And what I mean by that,
I'll say with what?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm saying, so I'm not saying that we don't need to improve, but what I am saying is I think many times we don't, again, see that there's pushback in every move we make. So if we don't understand, if we're not, oftentimes in these spaces, we're not clear that there's pushback and that it's a protracted struggle. We're not clear that people have tried and that people are actually human beings, that people will become co-opted. People will become frustrated. And this is more what I'm saying. More of the reason why I want to reframe it a bit is because people become frustrated by saying, see, you keep dropping the ball, but we have to add both. Yes, the ball was dropped, but somebody did just punch me in my face. So we have to look at both because people begin to think it's just us. The reason why this fell apart or why that fell apart, we have to be able to look at both. But if we're saying, and again, I think we have to be clear, if we're saying, well, on this media platforms, the reason why we're not at 1 million strong or whatever, like other as Pan-Africanists, we have to then ask the question, what happened to African Stream? Again, we have to look at, even when these things did happen, how the government actually shut them down. So we have to look at all of it. And I'm telling you, we are weak on the part that says that the government, we are at war and there is a mission to shut us down. But that doesn't mean that we don't keep fighting, that we don't find ways around it, that we don't organize, that we don't do these other things. But we don't typically say that. We'll just give up because we think that it's us. We have to understand the same thing happened historically. There was oppression, there was COINTEL operation, there was all types of things that had people pointing the fingers at one another, all that type of thing. I am saying, and I suggest and I maintain, that still happens today in even more intelligent ways.
So how do we, and that's the thing, how do we fix that? And like one of my things, and not just on a social media thing, like when we talk about Pan-Africanism and its totality, when we talk about the ideology of Pan-Africanism, we're talking about the unification of Africans globally, right? And unification, you know what I'm saying, that comes with us unifying, but also supporting one another. And that was a thing that I also see within the movements. Like you mentioned earlier, that certain people don't want to be in this organization because they don't want to be led by this person or led by, or, this and, this and that. So it's a support thing. And even with a support thing, it's like, how do we combat the individualistic? Because we rallying and championing Pan-Africanism, Black power, whatever, but we're not exemplifying it because we still have that individual saying that, okay, I want to support you. I want to support you because not only that you Black, but you for Black people, you for African people worldwide, right? So in that sense, I want to support you in whatever it is that you want to do. And I'm saying that I do, but I don't want to support you. Most people don't want to support you, even though they in the movement with you and say they for unity, they for progress, they for moving forward, but they only have their own interests in heart. And that is for one to support them and them not to reciprocate it and support others. So the support aspect, and it goes back to what I'm saying when you mention culture, right? And that's why I'm so important in culture. And I write about culture all the time, is because I think that is something that is truly missing. If we understand truly who we are, where we come from, our capabilities, the contributions that's been made, the sacrifices that have been made, I don't think that we will continue to make the same mistakes like you saying with our organizations being co-opted, or we falling into propaganda, or falling into propaganda, or continuing to educate ourselves through a Eurocentric, westernized education or ideology. At some point, like what he's saying, and I'm saying too, we have to take the accountability now with some of those things. What can we do? We know, for a matter, like we know what has happened. We know that what has happened. What are we going to do moving forward to change some of the situation. We know that we have the black man and black woman in America and everywhere else. We have roadblocks that's thrown in our way. Those roadblocks are slowing us down, stopping us from having access to certain things, stopping us from even loving ourselves and, you know what I'm saying, and supporting each other. So what does it look like, or what can we do to change that mindset?
We have to do what we're doing. But again, we are frustrated because we expect the fight to be easier. We have to get a clear analysis of what really is going on. It's like we really don't. I will argue and I maintain anytime we have these arguments, we're not clear on the war that we're up against. Now, I do get it. Like, that doesn't mean, like, again, even culture, there's war on various levels. We have to understand, even when we put our students, our children, we have to continue to do that. We have to continue to do it because there is a counterculture that is also at play. When when you're in it and you don't retreat, you realize there is a counterculture. People have raised their children up and they've done their best, and there's a counterculture that seeps its way in. And then you see, we can understand that we have to do something different, but you have to understand that they became a casualty of the war. We think it's going to be easier. Your children, although you did your best, you did this, that doesn't mean that there won't be any casualties. We have to really know that this is a real war. We don't believe it's a real war. We believe that somehow we can integrate into this society and somehow come up. And then another thing is, it's not about what happened, it's about what's still happening. It's not about what happened. It's still happening, and it's happening in more and smarter ways. It's a war being waged against us. Now, again, we have to do the culture. We have to do the education. We have to do the organizing. We have to do all these things. But the problem is not any of that. The problem is we have to understand that the goal that we want to get to many times and we expect to be at this time is not realistic. So we become frustrated. When we understand this thing from a more clear perspective, we won't be as frustrated because we expect that there's going to be casualty, there's going to be pushback, there's going to be vitality, there's going to be ups and downs, there's going to be all the things. So we're not, I promise you, we're not clear. I can just tell by questions and comments and all that we are not really, we don't really think we're at war. Because other than that, it's like, we're not just talking about integrating into a society. If that was it, then it'll be easier. But we're not talking about, see, we have to look at these things on different levels. When we're making our analysis, are we talking about survival programs as the Panthers spoke about? Or are we talking about liberation? What are we talking about? Because survival, like for example, do we want more of our children to have high education? Do we want people to have more jobs? Do we want people to have more benefits and jobs and bigger houses and all these things? Is that what we're talking about? How are we measuring our success? Or are we talking about liberation where there's a disruption in this system where the black man or black woman has some power and all that type of thing? So how are we measuring this?
Oh, well, I'm looking at it. I'm not an integrationist at all. I'm definitely not an integrationist. I'm for us, by us. You know what I'm saying? Building our own, nation. You know what I'm saying? And that takes, and I know we can talk about, capitalism. We can talk about so many different things, but in order to have what we're looking for, that freedom of and having accountability for ourselves, where we're educating ourselves, we're healing, ourselves, we're feeding, ourselves, we're providing opportunities and jobs for ourselves in our own spaces. That's definitely what I'm talking about when it comes to it. I'm definitely not talking about integrating or being accepted by by a European or Arab, perspective. I'm talking about building something for us. And that's where, at times my frustration comes in, because it takes work. It takes work. It takes resources. It takes funds. But no one wants to, like, I gamble on myself every time. And what I mean by that, I gamble on myself. I'll bet it all on me. I'll lose it all. But I understand in order for me to put myself in a better situation, put my family in a better situation, then, you know, I have to take chances. And those chances entail, okay, I may have to put up all my money into certain things to see if it pops. That means that I have to sit up all night and invest all of my time into reading books, looking at videos. That means spending money to travel to different seminars, to a certain event. So what it in detail entails working to improve a situation. But a lot of times we don't want to improve, and it's a selective of us. Like everybody, once I realized, and people was telling me, okay, Kofi, everybody's not Kofi, because I used to be upset on these platforms, because I'm doing that. But everybody, and you also stated it too, everybody's not going to be a scholar. You know, everybody. So everybody has to play their own, you know, particular lane, you know, when it comes to this. So, and everybody has a particular skill set, but a lot of us don't want to take that skill set and provide it somewhere else to help build something else besides building their own, or they say that they don't have the resources and don't want to spend their own money to help fund our liberation, our freedom, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where, you know, for me, the things come in is that, no, we talk about it, but when it comes to certain things that the process of us arriving to where we trying to arrive to, it takes a lot of those different things, and a lot of us not willing to take the time off. And I'm not saying everyone, I'm just saying
but that becomes the frustration, because somewhere in our mind, we do believe that it's going to be more. And we also do believe that it's going to be a more expedient route. And it's not that. I promise you, what we have to do is we have to all heal, even those who are, when we're frustrated so easily, that is a trigger that there's something in us that we're not being clear in this. We're not being realistic, because we are where we are. And I guarantee people, whether we want to believe it or not, are doing the best they can, even if they are traitors, because they can't do no better. So we gotta know what. So we give some people too many chances, even.
Yeah.
Because we just somehow think that this one is going to do better. We somehow think that one's going to do better. People are doing the best they can, even if they're traitors. People are doing the best they can when they. What I'm saying is, we become too frustrated with the fact that people aren't you, that people aren't dedicated the same way. There's never going to be a time where people are going to be as dedicated as you, Brother Kofi, Brother Ausar, Bob M. Hotep, any Dr. Mayat, my wife, Sister Camille. Like there are people, and this is why I disagree with this idea that we don't need leaders. And I think that is a trauma response.
Ooh.
To say we don't need leaders is like, it's a lots of times a holdover from from childhood. Let me just say that. And I hear too many people who say they don't have leaders because they're low. In my book, in Gia, in my theory, what have you, there's a lot of oppositional adults running around. There are a lot of oppositional defiant adults. They look like grown-ups, but they still haven't healed their pain from their childhood. And when you've been hurt so much, we got to deal with all that trauma, because you come into organization with that trauma, and you in your mind, that same oppositional adolescent is now an adult, supposedly. And now that person, when they like you, they love you, they want you, they love everything you saying, but at the same time they're envious, because that oppositional, that trauma, the clarity that you have might become threatening to somebody, but that is the trauma. But in a culturally organized society, we will realize that there are people that are in position for reasons. But in a culturally disorganized society or people, we begin to think that I can just be because I picked up books yesterday. I can be because I can emulate him or her or do these things because I don't need no man or woman telling me nothing. See, that is a clear indicator that there's trauma there. And it is in our community. It is in our community too deeply. And the thing is, those of us who are trying to make sense out of this, look, I'm sorry that I might be in your house, but the reality is I want to be in your house because I'm not trying to be your popular friend. What I want to say is that we walking around looking like adults, but we haven't healed from our childhood trauma. And that is what's going on. Because we haven't healed from that trauma, it really shades the way we see things, the urgency. It shades the disjointed thoughts, the disconnection, the frustration. Because when a lot of times those oppositional children end up in movements like this because they don't want nobody telling them nothing. So F the man, meaning the white man, F the system. Because what happens is I want to overthrow everything, and they're in it for the wrong reason. Now, they might be in it for a good reason, but the thing is, they just don't want to abide by rules. Ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do. I'm a man. I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like you. Why was that essential? See, when people say things like that, it is already indicative of what's going on inside their minds. We need order. As Dr. Marimba speaks about, culture is ordered behavior. So that goes back to that African Senate and that cultural part that you're talking about. And lots of times when we find ourselves in organizations and then we don't continue to follow those quote unquote leadership personnel that do exist and do mean us well. We'll point out all these people, these people who are the minority who ain't doing well. Like some of these social media people that I saw in the chat today. These are not the majority. There are plenty of people out here that mean well. And there are plenty of people out here who have balanced themselves in a meiotic sense, if you want to use that word, because I know you said something about spirituality. To me, the most spiritual thing you can do is balance that which is inside of you so that you can engage with others in a healthy manner. All of that is what I call spirituality in praxis. Because it's one thing to know the theory and another thing to practice it. And we don't know how to be in relationships because we too damn hard-headed and we know too much and we don't know when somebody else is in the room knows more than us or has more wisdom than us, because it ain't about the facts, it's about the wisdom. And we have to begin to realize when somebody else is in the space and I'm in the deep end of the pool, but we don't want to admit it or we just don't recognize it. Because I know when I'm in a room, I can realize in certain subjects that it ain't my thing. I ain't in the deep end of the pool. But right now, I look, when it comes to this healing thing, and I know we have to heal, I'm clear on that. And people who think they're doing right and saying stuff in the comments and all of that, I understand. I can see the hurt and pain. I can see the trauma. I can see the holdovers. I can see these things. And I'm saying that in a way to say, when we say things like this, we have to understand and reflect on we need to heal. And we feel like everything is urgent. We don't understand war. We're tired. We're frustrated, and understandably so. But then we start to get frustrated with the leadership who might be more clear, and many times is. I don't believe why did they make that decision? You don't, lot of times we don't even have the map that other people have. It's kind of like going and sitting down with Dr. Clark and trying to talk to him about history. Like, and you learned a few things about history, and you trying to point and you trying to prove to Dr. Clark, well, this about history and that, and you just picked up a few books. And even if Dr. Clark was wrong about a thing, your map ain't touching his map. You think because you corrected something that Dr. Clark said that your map, you're able and capable of doing the thing that he can do. It's kind of like when people go to their physician. They go to the physician office. Physicians don't know everything about health. No, they don't know every fact. You might go and Google something that they didn't know. Now, somehow our egos get too damn big because we are struggling with oppositional defiance in adulthood.
Yes, indeed. You talker, bro. You definitely talking, man. And I agree with everything, man, that you said. You said a mouthful, man, about a lot, and it also, it's like you was giving me some, like I'm sitting in the chair and you giving me some therapy on a few little things when you talk about, childhood, you know what I'm saying, trauma, you know what I'm saying, and childhood trauma is real, and how it affects us as adults, you know what I'm saying, and it affects how we look at certain things and how we receive certain things because of that trauma that we went through as a child, man. So that's why I didn't want to interrupt you. I wanted you to just keep going because you definitely, man, was cooking and hitting on the key on a few key things, man. As well, man. We finna get ready to wrap it up. Like I said, I try not to do these long shows. We already 6 minutes over, but I want to give a my sister Zuna, peace to sister Zuna, man. Peace to everybody in the chat. Peace to Sean. Peace to, I see Sheffrin in the building. You said you said Baba Imhotep was in here at one time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, peace to Baba Imhotep. I see Obafemi. Peace to Obafemi. I think Son was in here earlier. I think I seen Rock in here. Peace to I ain't got no problem with this, brother. Nija. Peace to FB Convo. You in the chat, I'm gonna always acknowledge, someone's existence. That's the only, proper way to do things, is to acknowledge someone as existence, even if I disagree with certain things. But peace to you, brother FBA Convo. My brother Ladarius, one of my podcast partners, Q Butter, Divine God, Allah, Revolutionary 7913. School for, I ain't got my glasses on. School for Urban Philosophy. That's got to be Bob. That's Bob Imhotep there, ain't it?
Yeah, that's Bob Imhotep. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, okay. Any Red Sean Cal Funny, my brother Vasa Nicolo Gullah, RBG Batar, and whoever else in here, Brent James. I want to make sure that I acknowledge these people in the building. But let's get into my brother Satep and Ra. Mariam and peace, brother. Peace. But let's be the last question, man. Let's my sister Zuna says, should we spend our focus instilling the values and principles in our youth or the community overall, including adult age people?
Absolutely. People often use that Frederick Douglass statement about it's easier to raise babes and heal. I'm paraphrasing, broken men or women or something like that. And I do the work with the grown-ups. It's hard work. Like it's hard work, but the reality is we have to do it. We have to take a holistic approach. And I have dedicated myself to working with adults. And dealing with adults is hard because we still struggle with the thing. It's like having children. It's like working with the same children who grown up now and they got more freedom. But I think if I wanted to really bring another piece into this, is that what we're doing with the Race First convention, I see that as a real strong approach to remedying the things that you've been asking about. So Bob Imhotep, PLM, all the different organizations across the country who convene in Baltimore. I think that was it this past September. You did an awesome video on it. Was it September, dear brother?
It was September or October. It might have been like October. I think.
Okay.
October. One around in there, late
around
September,
that time. Right. So we're still working behind the scenes. Those the things that the what did we call it again? The pardon, I wanted to be ready, but nonetheless, you remember what do they call it now? I can't, it's slipping my mind, but nonetheless, what we've constructed, I think that we should continue to support that. We should continue to do these things because it's covering all the areas that we're talking about today. And
declarations.
So is it declarations?
I don't know. Sister Zuna just threw that in there. Resolution statement.
Resolution. Yeah, the resolutions. Yes, the resolutions. So
shout out.
Thank you for that. Okay. So the resolution statements that we created and the work that we're doing behind the scenes to march forward, I think is a powerful thing. I think Bobby Hotep in his mind and that skill, as I've spoken to him before, that is a beautiful mind that can pull something like that together. Someone asked me again earlier, I saw someone put question marks at the genius. I would say that our dear brother Imhotep is one of those modern day geniuses that I'm talking about. And I say, and I think we should speak to it. You understand?
He definitely was. He definitely was a genius.
Yeah. So, and I'm saying he is this particular Imhotep, Imhotep Fatiyu, and others. You know, like there's many people. I'm saying, let's talk about our geniuses now. Let's stop. You know, look. We have to appreciate those with certain mindsets and skill sets. You know, like you have. I'm certain you're genius, brother. I'm certain you are. I mean, I saw you on here half an hour early. That's kind of genius type stuff. They do things in a certain way. But yeah, I'll say this though. I don't know if this is the closing, but let me just answer the question again because I said a lot. So yeah, I think it's a holistic process that we must take, and we have to heal everybody. It has to be a historical, cultural, social process, and I have to psychological, spiritual. You know, all these have to be touched on, and it can't just be the children; it has to be the adults as well. And again, everybody not going to get to the same level. Yeah,
I definitely appreciate that, man, and yeah, I mean, and you know, and I encouraging everyone, you know, that have concerns, you know, who want to affect positive change. You know, you mentioned the Race First conference. You know, there's going to be another Race First conference next year, I believe. I think Bob Imhotep said every other year. I know they're working behind the scenes on, you know, trying to put that together. I hope he implements some things that I also said that may be able to take some of the pressure and stress off of Bobby Imhotep when he's putting these things on. But you know, like, you know, the convention was dope. It showed that Black people here in the United States can unify, you know, and come together and figure out and create, you know, resolution or solutions, you know what I'm saying, for us to move forward in our progress, man. So I think you know, again, I'm encouraging everybody, you know what I'm saying, to come out to Baltimore next year in 2027, man. I know I had a phenomenal time out there. I seen his brother. I didn't get a chance. I didn't know him. I didn't get a chance to chop it up with him like I chopped it up with him, but I definitely appreciate him, you know, coming on today and having this discussion with me today. I greatly appreciate it, man. For you coming out. You changed my the way I look at certain things in a way, especially when you mentioned the childhood thing. Like I said, you made me feel like I was sitting on your couch, man, and you was giving me some therapy. You was giving me some therapy, man, on some different things. So yeah.
I have that effect when I go. Yeah.
Man. So I definitely appreciate, man, the conversation, man. I hope everybody else appreciate the conversation. I hope everybody got something out of this conversation. I'm gonna kind of keep these conversations going. Possibly in another 2 weeks or so. May have a panel or so and bring a bunch of people on, and we can continue to talk about Pan-Africanism and continue to highlight Pan-Africanism, the ideology, the mindset, the perspective, what we can do to support each other, you know what I'm saying? Because all of us are in our own respective towns doing, phenomenal things. How can we support each other, you know what I'm saying, from afar? Because that's what it's all about too, you know what I'm saying? Supporting and the acknowledging piece, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate this, brother, you know what I'm saying? And I appreciate your leadership skills. I appreciate your geniusness, you know what I'm saying? And you like you said, we got to start acknowledging the people that we see that's doing the work right now, you know what I'm saying? So definitely wanted to acknowledge you, but I'm gonna kind of keep these conversations going on about Pan-Africanism so we can, stop some of it. Because it was more questions I wanted to ask too, but maybe we'll get a chance to chop it up about those later on. You know what I'm saying?
I'm later ready.
Yeah, no doubt. I might bring you back on when I do the panel. Then I want to bring on like a maybe 8 to 9 panelists on, and we can kind of chop it up, and brainstorm. Because I'm using all of this too, also for like research for my book. You know what I'm saying? And that the book is Before Pan-Africanism was the name. I want to highlight Ethiopianism and some of those people and some of the forefathers of Pan-Africanism who was also Ethiopians. Was a part of the Ethiopian movement, and why Ethiopia was important for everyone from here and even in other places in Africa to look toward the country of Ethiopia for what Ethiopia was doing, and even what was written about Ethiopia in that time that inspired, everyone to unify, So what Sister Zuna say, 8 to 9? Yeah, sister, you're gonna be one of them, Sister Zuna. You're going to be one of them on the panel. You're going to be one of them on the panel. Kofi, you interviewed a doctor from Baltimore. Why won't you interview a barber from Baltimore? Man, I done interviewed you already, Shefford, man. And I wish I would have knew, man. I would have been thinking, Shefford, I was out in Baltimore, man. I would have came and let you chop me up, man, before I went to the meet and greet and went to one of the events at went to one of the conferences, man. So, but yeah, I'm gonna get back out there next year, man. But again, man, I appreciate you, man. I don't want to hold up in your time. Like I said, I ain't the type of person to try to keep people on this hours and hours. You got a family, I got a family. You got stuff that you got to do. I got stuff that I got to do. Then it's the weekend. You might want to enjoy yourself. So again, I greatly appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to building back with you again. I'm looking forward to meeting you again in person, but actually chopping it up with you this time when I come out to Baltimore.
Can I just say a closing statement?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I wrote this post today. I said, where a colonizer draws lines or where an enslaver forcibly takes me will never define who my brothers and sisters are in the African world. Until next time, family, I thank you, dear brother, for bringing me on, and you all for checking in. Peace and power.
Peace and power, y'all. So we out of here, y'all. We'll see y'all. Well, we'll be back next week. I think we'll be back next week for the 8-year anniversary of the Mossi Warrior Clan. Hopefully we'll have all the members on the channel. I think that's at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you'll get to see some of the Mossi Warrior Clan members, such as myself, Sean, Benjamin Nija, aka Black Panther, and a few other people, man. So yeah, peace and power, man. And we out here, man. I'll see y'all when I see y'all, man. Appreciate the support.